A food critic tried to ruin my restaurant and it backfired big time. The shocking aftermath. I work at a small, family-owned restaurant called Delicious Bites. It's a hidden gem in a quiet part of the city, tucked away from the hustle and bustle. The kind of place that doesn't need neon signs or fancy advertisements to get by. People come to us because of the food, the atmosphere, and the memories they've made with family and friends. The place has been around for years, and it's passed down through generations. It's not a Michelin star restaurant, but it's homey. The regulars love us, and the new customers always walk away impressed. There's something about the food here. The simple, classic comfort foods made with love that have kept us alive all these years. One of the standout items on the menu is the Giant Burger Deluxe. It's a massive, towering creation that demands attention. For juicy patties stacked high, crisp bacon, melted cheddar cheese, fresh veggies, and all the sauces you can dream of. We serve it on a massive bun that can barely contain it all. It's a challenge for some people to even finish the whole thing, but it has become an icon for our restaurant. If you're in the area and you've never tried it, you're missing out. But more than that, it's become a symbol of our restaurant's charm. Hearty, unpretentious, and full of flavor. It was one of those Friday nights, the kind where you can feel the buzz in the air. The restaurant was full, and the kitchen was in overdrive. There were clattering plates, sizzling fryers, the constant hum of conversation, and laughter filling the room. People were celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, and everything in between. It was lively, warm, and everything a good restaurant should be. But then he walked in. It's funny how you can tell when someone enters a room and changes the atmosphere immediately. Craig, a man in his mid-30s, stepped through the door. He wasn't particularly tall or imposing, but he carried himself like he was the most important person in the room. His outfit screamed for attention. A bright red suit, tailored perfectly but so loud and garish that it looked almost comical. He wore sunglasses perched on top of his head even though it was well past dusk. His hair was slicked back with gel in a way that felt less stylish and more like he was trying too hard. His whole presence reeked of arrogance, as if he thought he was a celebrity or, more realistically, that the world revolved around him. He scanned the room for a second, eyes darting around. Then, without saying a word, he strode to a corner table by the window. He didn't greet anyone or even look at the menu. He just sat down and made himself comfortable, throwing a glance at the staff, making it clear he expected someone to cater to his every whim immediately. Sarah, one of our newest waitresses, approached him with her usual friendly smile. She'd been working with us for a few months and had already proven to be an excellent addition to the team. She was fast, efficient, and always greeted our customers with warmth. "Hi there. Welcome to Delicious Bites. How can I help you tonight?" she asked, her voice soft but welcoming. Craig didn't even look up at her at first. He just waved her off with a dismissive gesture. "Yeah, I'll take your biggest burger, the one with everything on it. And I want it now," he said, his tone dripping with impatience. Sarah, used to handling the occasional impatient customer, smiled again and said, "Of course, our Giant Burger Deluxe is our biggest option. It'll take about 15 minutes to prepare. Is that all right?" He made a sound, something between a growl and a snort, before snapping, 15 minutes? That's way too long. I want it now, and I want it free." There was a brief moment of stunned silence. Sarah blinked, processing his words. This wasn't an ordinary request. Most customers understand the wait time, especially on busy nights. But this guy? He was demanding things as if everyone around him should be honored to serve him. "Sorry, sir, but we don't give away food," Sarah said, keeping her cool. "We pride ourselves on the quality of our meals, and we've never done that before. But I can promise you that we'll have your order ready in just a few minutes." Craig didn't take that well. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, looking at her like she had personally insulted him. "Listen, I'm a food critic, all right," he said, his voice rising. "You've probably heard of me. I've eaten at all the best places in the city. You should be honored that I'm here. If your burger is good, I'll write you the best review ever. If it's not, I'll make sure everyone knows what a joke this place is." The nerve. This guy was a self-proclaimed food critic. No credentials, no reputation. Just a man sitting in a corner of a humble restaurant trying to leverage the title to get a free meal. Sarah, who had been taught to handle difficult situations with professionalism, simply nodded and replied, "I'm sorry, but we treat all our customers equally." If you'd like to proceed with your order, I'll be happy to help. If not, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. His face turned red, and for a split second, I thought he was going to blow a gasket. But he wasn't done. He stood up, towering over Sarah, and slammed his hand down onto the table with so much force that the silverware rattled. Are you kidding me? You're going to turn down the best opportunity your little restaurant will ever get. His voice was now loud enough for everyone in the restaurant to hear. I'll tell everyone that your food is terrible. I'll make sure no one ever comes back here again. That's when Mark, our manager, walked over. Mark had been in the restaurant business for years, long enough to have encountered his fair share of entitled customers. He had a calm demeanor, but you could tell he wasn't someone who took kindly to people trying to intimidate his staff. Mark approached Craig's table with purpose. Sir, I need you to calm down. We can't give away food based on threats. If you continue to act this way, I'll have to ask you to leave. Craig's eyes narrowed, and a smug grin appeared on his face. You think I'll leave just because you told me to? No, I'll be the one deciding when I leave. And trust me, when I do, your business will be ruined. Everyone in the city will know what a joke you are. At this point, the tension was palpable. Every customer in the restaurant had stopped talking and was now watching the drama unfold. Some were even whispering to each other, exchanging glances as if they were witnessing a fight they couldn't quite believe. Craig was still standing, making threats, while Mark remained composed. And then something incredible happened. Sarah, who had been trying to stay calm, looked over at me, her face pale but determined. She had seen enough. I'm calling the police, she muttered under her breath. And before anyone could stop her, she pulled out her phone and dialed 911. The police arrived within minutes. The officers entered the restaurant like it was a regular visit. But when they saw Craig arguing with Mark, it didn't take long for them to assess the situation. They calmly walked over to Craig, who was still ranting about his supposed food critic status. One officer spoke firmly. Sir, you need to come with us. Craig, realizing the situation had spiraled beyond his control, tried to argue. This is ridiculous. You don't understand. I'm a food critic. You can't do this. But the officers weren't having any of it. They took him by the arm and, with surprising ease, escorted him outside. The scene was surreal. One moment, Craig was making threats in the middle of our restaurant. The next, he was being handcuffed and placed into the back of a police car. I couldn't help but watch, feeling a strange mix of disbelief and relief. The rest of the night was a blur, but the customers who were still in the restaurant applauded. One elderly woman, who had been watching from a corner booth, turned to me and said, I've never seen someone like that before. You handled it well. The next morning, the story was all over social media and even the local news. The headline read, Self-proclaimed food critic arrested for attempting to scam local restaurant. The post was filled with comments supporting our restaurant and praising us for standing our ground. We received a wave of new customers after the incident. People wanted to see the place that stood up to the bully. And to be honest, it felt good. The support from the community was overwhelming. Our business was thriving in ways it had never done before. As for Craig, he was banned from every restaurant in the city. The police charged him with attempted fraud, and he spent the night in jail. His so-called food critic career was destroyed, and he was left with nothing but the remnants of his own ego. Top 3 comments. This guy thought he could bully a small family business and walk away with a free meal? The nerve. I'm so glad they called the police. This is the kind of behavior that needs to be shut down. People like him don't deserve the platform he thinks he has. Wow. I'm impressed with how well the staff handled the situation. Kudos to Sarah and Mark for staying calm and not backing down. Craig might have thought he was a big deal, but he clearly didn't understand the power of community support. Well done. This is what happens when entitlement goes unchecked. He thought he could walk in, demand everything for free, and get away with it. Good on the restaurant for standing their ground. And the fact that he got arrested is just icing on the cake. This is why we need to support our local businesses. It's been a few weeks since the incident with Craig, the self-proclaimed food critic, and while things at Delicious Bites have returned to normal, it's clear that this experience has left a permanent mark on the restaurant. The news of what happened that night spread like wildfire, and many people are still talking about it. We've gained a significant amount of publicity, but not all of it has been positive. At first, the attention was overwhelmingly positive. The support from the community was incredible. People came in droves to show their love and solidarity. Our regulars were telling us how proud they were of us for standing up to someone who tried to ruin our reputation. Even local influencers came to show support, posting pictures of their meals and tagging us in their stories. Business was booming, and we could barely keep up with the demand. We even had to hire 2 extra staff members just to handle the influx of customers. But as with anything that gets too much attention, there's always the flip side. A few days after the incident, we started receiving angry, aggressive phone calls from people who claimed they were friends of Craig or followers of his food blog. They started posting negative reviews online, accusing us of being unprofessional, rude, and claiming that we had somehow mistreated Craig, despite the fact that he had been the one to start the entire ordeal. A few of these reviews were particularly nasty. One person claimed that we were dishonest and rude to food critics and that they'd never set foot in a place that mistreats its customers like that. Another person said we were disrespectful and accused us of trying to hide the truth by not allowing Craig to review our food. Mark, our manager, had to deal with these reviews on a daily basis, trying to calm down angry people and explain the situation. We even had to send emails to our loyal customers apologizing for the misunderstanding and reassuring them that we only acted in the best interest of our staff and business. But deep down, we all knew that nothing was going to change Craig's narrative. His ego was too big for that. The worst part, though, came when we started receiving threats. One night, Sarah was at the front of the restaurant greeting new customers when she received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was low and menacing. "You've ruined Craig's career. You'll regret this. I hope you're ready for the consequences." She was shaken, but she kept her composure and handed the phone to Mark, who immediately called the police. The threats didn't stop there, though. Over the next few days, we received several more calls and emails, all filled with rage and venom. It wasn't just Craig's followers either. A local food critic who had somehow gotten wind of the situation wrote an article calling us overdramatic and claiming that small businesses like ours shouldn't try to fight back against critics. They should just be grateful for the attention. He suggested that we apologize to Craig and move on. The more we read, the more it became clear that Craig had built a network of supporters who saw him as a victim. Even though he had been completely in the wrong, they still believed his story, and they were ready to defend him with everything they had. But through all of this, we didn't back down. Mark kept us focused, reminding us that the core of Delicious Bites is our loyal customers and our reputation for quality. As the weeks went on, the negative reviews slowly started to fade into the background. People who had initially heard only one side of the story began to hear ours, and the hate started to subside. We even received a letter from a local food blogger who said she had been following the story and wanted to apologize for jumping to conclusions. The turning point came when Craig tried to make a comeback. He posted a video on his supposed food critic page claiming that he was innocent and that the restaurant was abusing its power by having him arrested. He begged his followers to take action, urging them to flood the restaurant with negative reviews again. But it backfired. The community rallied. Customers flooded our social media with positive comments, defending us and sharing their experiences with us. One comment that stood out said, "If Craig's going to harass small businesses, maybe he should find a real job. Delicious Bites is where it's at." That was when we realized that we'd won. The tide had turned in our favor. The people who were supporting Craig, who had been relentless in trying to tear us down, slowly backed off. Our loyal customers took it upon themselves to speak out and show Craig that he couldn't bully us into submission. Mark and I discussed it, and we decided to give Craig one last chance to redeem himself. We sent him a message saying we'd be willing to sit down and talk about what happened, hoping he would finally understand the damage he caused. But he ignored us. Since then, Delicious Bites has only grown stronger. We have a bigger following. Our staff is more united than ever, and we are more confident in what we do. We've learned some tough lessons, but at the end of the day, we stayed true to who we are, and the community respected that. Craig's reputation, on the other hand, has continued to fall apart. He's no longer seen as a credible food critic, just a laughingstock. I've even heard rumors that he's been banned from a few other restaurants, and his followers are slowly starting to question his integrity. His influence has all but disappeared, and it's clear that his attempts to bring us down only brought him lower. Looking back, I'm proud of how we handled everything. We kept our heads high, kept our focus on what really mattered, and in the end, we emerged stronger than before. Top 3 comments. I'm so glad to hear that Delicious Bites is thriving despite everything. It just shows how strong the community support is when you do things right and stand up for yourself. Craig thought he could ruin your business, but all he did was expose himself as a fraud. Honestly, I love how you guys handled everything. You didn't give in to the threats and you stuck to your guns. That's what real businesses do. Craig got what was coming to him. You deserve all the success you're getting now. The fact that Craig thought he could bully a small business and ruin it for his own gain is disgusting. But kudos to Delicious Bites for showing him that integrity and community are what matter most. You're an inspiration. It's been months since the whole fiasco with Craig, and things at Delicious Bites have finally settled into a new normal. We've learned a lot from everything that happened, and I feel like we're stronger than ever before. We've had some ups and downs, of course, but looking back, the experience has been a roller coaster of emotions. Business has been thriving, and we're actually seeing more customers than before the incident. I never imagined that a small event could bring so much attention to the restaurant, but I guess that's just the way things work sometimes. The first few weeks after Craig tried to take us down were stressful, no doubt. We had to deal with all the negative reviews, the angry calls, and the threats. At one point, it felt like we were on the edge of collapse, especially when we had to deal with the personal threats. But as time went on, the support from the community started to outweigh the negativity. Customers were coming in with stories about how they'd been following the whole situation, and they were eager to support us. I've never felt more appreciated by the people who walk through our doors. Our regulars were even more vocal, telling us how proud they were of our response to the situation. We ended up getting new customers as well, all of whom heard about our story and wanted to see what we were about. Word of mouth can be incredibly powerful. However, there was one more twist in this story that I didn't expect. A few weeks ago, Craig reached out. It wasn't an apology, though. Instead, he sent a message to Mark, asking if we would consider collaborating with him on a new food project. He claimed he'd learned from his mistakes and wanted to move past it. To be honest, I was shocked. After everything he'd done to tarnish our reputation and stir up trouble, this felt like insulting. Mark and I discussed it, and after a lot of back and forth, we decided to respond. We politely declined his offer, saying that we were happy with the direction our restaurant was going and didn't need his help. We didn't want anything to do with him anymore. I didn't expect it, but Craig's message really confirmed everything I had been feeling all along. He hadn't changed at all. He was just trying to repair his own image now that his reputation was in ruins. If we had agreed to work with him, it would have been as if we were rewarding him for his behavior. And we weren't about to do that. Mark handled the situation really well, though. He kept the conversation short and professional, but we both knew it was time to move on. There was no need to dwell on it anymore. Now, I can happily say that Delicious Bites is doing better than ever. We've expanded the menu, added some new items that have been a hit with customers, and we've even started offering delivery services, which has been great for business. The staff is more united than ever before. We've learned how to handle tough situations with grace, and our reputation is as strong as it's ever been. As for Craig, well, his attempts to rebuild his credibility didn't go anywhere. He's still out there trying to act like a big-time food critic, but the damage he did to himself is permanent. The people who supported him before now see him for what he really is. The funny thing is, we've heard through the grapevine that other restaurants in the area have started refusing to let him review their food. It seems like people have finally caught on. Looking back, I can't help but feel a sense of pride in how we handled the entire situation. Yes, it was stressful and difficult, but it showed me just how much we've grown. Not just as a restaurant, but as a team and as individuals. We stayed true to ourselves, didn't let anyone dictate our narrative, and came out on top. For anyone else out there going through something similar, stand your ground. Don't let anyone try to break you down. It might feel impossible at first, but in the end, your integrity will always shine through. The community will always have your back if you're doing things right. To all our loyal customers who stood by us throughout this whole ordeal, thank you. We wouldn't be here without you. And as for Craig, well, I think it's safe to say that he's no longer a problem. Top 3 comments. I have to admit, I was rooting for Delicious Bites from the start. The way you handled everything was amazing. You didn't let Craig or anyone else define you. Your restaurant deserves all the success you're getting now. I hope Craig realizes that trying to tear people down only makes him look worse. What a journey. It's crazy how fast everything can spiral out of control. But it's even crazier to see how you turned it all around. I'm so happy for you and your team. You guys didn't let the negativity affect your business. And that's the kind of resilience that makes a place successful. Keep it up. This update gave me chills. I can't believe Craig had the audacity to ask for your help after everything he did. It's amazing to see that you didn't let him manipulate you again. Delicious Bites is lucky to have such strong leadership, and it's clear your business is thriving because of it.